It was a crisp autumn evening when Emily moved into the old house at the edge of town. Her new life had started with excitement and anticipation, but she couldn't ignore the unease that settled in her chest as she stepped through the front door. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, as if it were holding its breath. The air felt thick, and the wooden floors creaked beneath her feet as she explored the rooms. The house was beautiful, with its high ceilings and grand staircase, but there was something about the place that unsettled her. The wallpaper in the living room had faded, and the old wooden beams in the ceiling looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. She figured it was just the house's age. After all, it had been empty for years before she arrived. That night, after unpacking the last of her boxes, Emily sat down to relax in the living room. As she settled into the armchair, a faint sound caught her attention. It was a low whisper, almost imperceptible, coming from the walls. She froze, listening carefully, but it stopped. She brushed it off as the house settling, but the feeling of being watched lingered. The next few days were normal for the most part. Emily went about her routines, but every night the whispers grew louder. She could hear them more clearly now, voices that seemed to call her name. The tone was soft, almost pleading, but she couldn't make out the words. She told herself she was imagining things, but the whispers persisted. One night, unable to ignore it any longer, Emily decided to investigate. She stood in the center of the living room, straining her ears to catch the source of the whispers. The house was silent at first, but then, just as she had feared, the whispering began again, this time louder, more frantic. "Help us," the voices begged. Emily's heart raced, and she felt a chill crawl up her spine. The whispers seemed to come from the walls themselves. Slowly, she walked towards the old fireplace, where the voices seemed to be the loudest. As she placed her hand on the cold stone, a strange sensation washed over her. The air felt colder, heavier. Suddenly, the wall beside the fireplace groaned, and a section of it began to shift, revealing a hidden door. With trembling hands, Emily reached for the door. Her heart pounded in her chest, but curiosity overpowered her fear. She pushed the door open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The whispers were louder now, almost frantic. "Please, don't leave us." Emily hesitated for only a moment before stepping into the darkness, her footfall soft on the old creaky stairs. The deeper she descended, the colder it became. Her breath fogged in the air. At the bottom of the stairs, she found a small room. The walls were lined with old, dusty bookshelves, and in the center of the room lay a dusty, antique mirror. The whispers seemed to be coming from the mirror now. Emily's eyes were drawn to it, unable to look away. The surface rippled as if something, someone, was trying to break through. Suddenly, the whispers stopped, and in the reflection, Emily saw something that made her blood run cold. Behind her, standing in the shadows, was a figure. A pale, thin man, his hollow eyes locked onto hers. His lips moved silently, but his gaze screamed of desperation. "Get out," a voice whispered from the mirror. Emily spun around, but the room was empty. She turned back to the mirror, only now the man was no longer behind her. He was in the reflection, standing right beside her, his face twisted in agony. "Help us," the voices cried again. "You shouldn't have come." Suddenly the mirror cracked, and the walls around her began to close in. The whispers became screams, filling her ears, growing louder and louder. Emily ran up the stairs, but the walls seemed to shift, trapping her inside. The last thing she saw before the world went dark was the reflection of her own terrified face, staring back at her from the shattered mirror.